Hello and welcome to Tech Deals, ASUS Republic of Gamers Crosshair 6 Hero motherboard unboxing and review. This is a premium top-tier X370 motherboard for AMD's Ryzen processors. In this video, I'm going to be talking about who should buy this, who should not buy it, alternatives you might consider, which Ryzen CPUs you should put onto this board, and then finally I'm going to take it out of the box and do a detailed look at all the parts and components on it so you can decide if this is the right choice for you. So who should consider buying this motherboard? Short answer, enthusiast overclockers. If you already have a top-tier system put together with a high-end processor, RAM, graphics card, etc., and you are looking for a motherboard to match, this should be on your short list. If you want to push your Ryzen processor to 4.0 gigahertz or beyond and you have a good cooling solution, this motherboard is for you. Now at $250, it's by no means the least expensive board on the market, but it is designed for overclockers. One of the most convenient features on this that I've used multiple times is the clear CMOS button right on the back panel. No need to open your system to reset your BIOS in the event your overclocking settings fail. So you can tweak and play around with it, and it's very easy to keep resetting it and then try again. Now, if you are not interested in top-tier overclocking, there is another board you can consider, and that would be this one. This is the ASUS Prime X370 motherboard for $150. It is $100 less than the Crosshair 6. It has most of the features of the Crosshair 6, and I will cover this in a separate video, and this is going into a build. However, this is not primarily designed for overclockers, but more mainstream enthusiasts. Now, it will overclock, but it's not designed for extreme and enthusiast overclocking. The Crosshair 6 is. So if you plan to buy a Ryzen 7 1700, use the included Wraithspire stock cooler, run it at 3.7 gigahertz, the Prime board for $150 is the one to buy. If, on the other hand, you plan to buy a 1700X or an 1800X and you plan to install a 240 millimeter or larger liquid cooler, then the Crosshair 6 Hero is for you because it has the features you're going to want to get the most out of your premium top-end processor. Now, speaking of processor, let me be absolutely clear. The 1700X and the 1800X are the only two CPUs you should consider installing in a motherboard of this magnitude. Any of the other CPUs simply make no sense. You would be better off buying the Prime board for $100 less and installing a faster CPU. So this board is if you're already buying a top-tier processor, and frankly, the 1700X is the deal. Now, I have overclocked all three of the Ryzen 7 CPUs. The 1700X and the 1800X both have no problem running at 4.0 gigahertz. The 1700, however, does struggle there, and I've seen similar reports from other reviewers that the X chips do seem to be binned a bit better and overclock a little faster. In May of 2017, when I'm filming this video, the price difference between the 1700 and the 1700X is less than $50. If you're looking at spending $250 on a motherboard, that is not a large price difference, and I highly recommend at least the 1700X for this board. The next consideration is what system memory should you buy. Now, this advice applies to the Crosshair 6 Hero motherboard, not the less expensive Prime motherboard. I have three memory kits here from G-Skill. All three are DDR4 3200 megahertz. The only one you should buy is this one, the Flare X. It is certified and tested for Ryzen, and I can tell you from personal experience, this RAM runs flawlessly at DDR4 3200 out of the box in automatic mode on this motherboard. These two kits do not. They both run at DDR4 2666. The 3200 megahertz speed on Trident Z and Ripjaws 5 were designed for Intel motherboards, not AMD Ryzen boards. They will run, but not at their full speed. So if you want a high-end enthusiast system, which you should if you're looking at a $250 motherboard, the extra cost for the Flare X RAM is worth it, and it's what I would recommend. Now, these are all 16 gigabyte kits. If you need 32 gigabytes or 64 gigabytes of RAM for video editing, video production, virtual machines, etc., you will not be able to run 3200 megahertz RAM. It simply isn't currently an option. Now, there are options for that. G.Skill does make Ryzen certified RAM in the 32 and the 64 gigabyte sizes for the X370 chipsets, but it's not going to run at 3200 megahertz. Before I show you the unboxing itself, I just want to draw your attention to some key features of this motherboard. Here you can see a detailed look at everything. Now this motherboard has basically every feature you could want in a high-end motherboard. I won't cover everything in detail here, but I would encourage you for more information to check out the link that I'll put in the video description below to ASUS's website if you'd like to look at this in more detail. But it really does have a lot of features. Did I mention this motherboard was for overclocking enthusiasts? This motherboard has water cooling support built right into it. There are special tachometers and sensors for open loop custom water coolers. Now, that's really outside the purview of my channel. I don't tend to do stuff like custom open loop coolers. It's more a Jay's 2 cents thing than it is me. However, if that's something you're interested in, this motherboard has got you completely covered. My personal recommendation is most people probably are better off with a closed loop cooler, such as something from Corsair, their H115i, or the Cooler Master Master Liquid Pro 280. The mounting holes for AM3 and AM4 coolers are on this board. All other X370 boards only have the mounting holes for AM4 compatible coolers. So if you have an older style cooler that was designed for AM3, the previous generation FX series chipsets, it will work on this board and no other. So this is nice. You don't have to worry about having the correct bracket. You can go out and buy any cooler that you want and it should work just fine on this board. Lighting options. The RGB lighting is very nice on this board. Take a look. You can set this to any sort of color that you want. We can rotate this around. We can select green and you'll see the lights on the board light up here. We can select red and you'll see those light up. You can choose rainbow colors, CPU temperature colors. You can link it to the audio on your system. And what's really nice about this is there are 2 different RGB lighting strips so that you can add additional RGB lighting to your system and sync it up with your board to basically create Christmas on your desktop. Do you have other Aurora Sync peripherals? Do you have for example, ASUS Republic of Gamers Strix graphics card, keyboard, mouse? They will all sync up with the ASUS software to allow you to basically color match all of the items in your system. Do you have a high quality pair of headphones or a set of speakers on your desk? Do you have a 7.1 surround sound system? Do you want the best built-in audio you can find? Well, you've come to the right place because it's got it. Now, other motherboards have the same Realtek audio codec chip that this uses. However, this also uses an ESS Sabre Hi-Fi chip digital analog converter, which is not on the Prime board. So there is an improved audio solution here that is not on the less expensive boards. Do you have an interest in the 3D printing technology? This motherboard has built-in mounts designed to accept 3D printed items. Now there are diagrams and mounting plates on the board and screws and mounts in the box. If this is something you're interested in, read up more on it. I won't cover it more here, but it's sort of a new thing that they're starting to do if you want to create custom covers, custom connectors, and other enhancements for your system. This right here is one of the reasons why ASUS motherboards are my favorite. The BIOS, the features within the BIOS are some of the best in the business. I personally prefer the layout and design of this more than any of the others. And I have used the others. I've used MSI, ASRock, and Gigabyte, and they do the job and they're fine. But from a preference point of view, from a finding all the features and having a lot of different choices, the ASUS BIOS really is my personal favorite. Finally, let me just say that the Republic of Gamers line does include some additional software programs that you can download from ASUS's website and run on your board. I'm not going to go into those in detail. I encourage you to take a look at this page if you're interested in spending this kind of money on a motherboard. It's worth 30 minutes of your time to go over all of these. I don't want to read a product spec page to you that you can certainly read yourself, but there are some programs and unique utilities that are not available with the less expensive boards, and you may find that they are of use to you. So check them out, linked in the description below. Now I'm going to show you the unboxing of this motherboard. I have now placed the box on the desk so I can open this up and show you the unboxing close up and detailed. Now we open the box and the first thing you will notice, it is very, very nicely packed. Inside you can see, of course, the light reflection. There is a plastic protective cover, which I will remove. And I'll just slide this forward to show this to you. The attention to detail in the packaging, they've got this interior cover with the logo, Welcome to the Republic. ASUS really likes their Republic of Gamers branding, and if it's the sort of thing that you are interested in, they certainly take it to the nth degree. The motherboard itself can easily be removed from this cardboard protective case, and you can see there's a little bit of plastic underneath it, and I'm going to set this aside to show you what's in the rest of the box. We'll take this piece of cardboard out. That's actually a very nice piece of cardboard. In here, we have a 20% off cable mod coupon. There's a coupon code on the other side, which I obviously won't show you, but it's a 20% off any order from cablemod.com if you are interested in getting custom cables for your case. We have a coaster here, Join the Republic, if you're interested in maybe a coffee mug coaster. We have the driver CD right here. Now, ideally, you will download updated drivers directly from ASUS's website. Everything on here is available for download, but if you need anything in order to get online, or you just have a slow internet connection and you want to start with this, you certainly can. We have a series of cable stickers. These are the ROG cable labels. You wrap these around the cables on both ends. You've got 5 different colors here. If you need help with cables and you like using cable labels, there you go. Now we have the user's guide. I absolutely positively love ASUS manuals. Take a look at this. ASUS, in my opinion, produces the best manuals in the business. Take a look at that. You've got, there we go. You have got every single item detailed in a nice motherboard layout. You've got every single button and an actual paragraph and a section that explains everything. Now, every motherboard comes with some kind of manual. However, this entire book is in English. Most manuals on most motherboards that I review, they're this thick, but they've got 10 different languages in it. This has got every detail about everything. The BIOS, connecting drives, setting up all the ports on the back. Very, very, very nice detailed manual. So if you have any issues with setting up your machine, you'll find everything answered in the manual. And there is still more. We still have this to lift off. Underneath here, we have got some serial ATA cables. There are 2 in each of these containers, so that is 4 serial ATA cables. Many motherboards only come with 2 or 3, so the fact that they give you 4 is a nice thing to have. This is an extension cable for the RGB lighting system. Now, there are RGB headers on this board. If you want to put an RGB light strip around your case, this is an extension cable, so you don't have to start the RGB at the motherboard port. You can get a cable and use this to extend where the RGB lighting starts. Nice that it comes with that. This right here is very handy. This is an assistance tool to plug in the power LED, reset switch, hard drive light, etc. on the corner of the motherboard. You don't have to use it, but what it lets you do is plug those all in where you can see them. It's labeled, and then you just plug this in the motherboard. Very handy. These are always nice to be included. This is an NVIDIA SLI high bandwidth bridge, even festooned with the ROG label right there, of course. Now, it's not RGB or LED, but it is included, which is nice. Now, you can go out and buy these, and not all motherboards include these. Some less expensive boards don't have them, and if you want to put 2 NVIDIA cards in, you can easily pay $20 to $30 for a high bandwidth bridge. The new 10 series NVIDIA cards, the 1070, 1080, and 1080 Ti, will require one of these to SLI. Here you can see our M.2 post and screw. This is for installing a M.2 SSD onto the motherboard. You will definitely need to save that. Don't lose that. You'll need it. Now, this right here is the 3D printing mounts. Now, ASUS is now supporting 3D printing mounts and customizations for the board. So there are several places on the board. You can go to ASUS's website if you're interested in that. 2 of them in here. Actually, 2 of them plus the screws. Save that if you're interested in that. Here we come to the I/O shield. Look at that. It is absolute black and it is silk screened with identifications. Now, it does provide a cutout place if you want to pop it out for Wi-Fi. The board does not come with Wi-Fi, but it provides a place to put the Wi-Fi antenna if you want to add it. Marked for your super speed ports, your BIOS flashback port if you ever need to update the BIOS via USB thumb drive, your gigabit Ethernet. The ports for all of your HD audio are labeled here, line out, mic in, etc. And then your BIOS button and your clear CMOS button. If you like to do a lot of heavy overclocking, rather than having to worry about jumpers on the board, there's a button on the back here that you can use to clear the CMOS so that you can go back to default settings and try overclocking again. Wow, take a look at this. we have got stickers. Yay, stickers. Do you like these kind of things? Well, there's lots of stickers here. If you want to use the, do not disturb. There is somebody who's going to want to use that. Don't bother me, I'm gaming. That's actually really nice. These are quality too. They're kind of shiny. So lots of stickers for you to play with. That is everything in the box. Here you can see the motherboard close up. I'm going to quickly go around the board and talk about some of the features so you can see it in greater detail. Up here in the corner we have two CPU power connectors, one 4-pin and one 8-pin. Most modern higher end power supplies that you would use with a $250 motherboard will have two CPU power connectors. If you have something older from a few years ago, that may be an issue and you may need to replace the power supply. So do check to make sure that you do have two CPU power connectors. Now most of them are going to split from an 8-pin to a 4+4, so you'll use half of one and all of the other. You can see our nice high quality screened or laser etched Hero logos right here. These are actually metal heat sinks that actually have a connecting metal rod between them that are cooling the power delivery. That is one of the key features of this board is the excellent power delivery system for overclocking. Coming across the top of the board, you can see three fan and pump header connectors. The middle one is the main CPU fan connector. Make sure you have something connected to that. The motherboard is expecting at least something connected there. This one is an optional port for an additional fan, and then this is designed for the all-in-one pump header. This is a higher amperage output for larger 240 and 280 millimeter liquid coolers and even 360 millimeter extreme coolers. Here you have the LED, the actual error diagnostic code panel. This is really handy to have. If you hook everything up, plug your RAM in, plug your CPU in, turn the power on, and it doesn't boot, now what? This will display various codes as it's booting, and if it freezes on one, you can use the manual to figure out what is the problem, what do you need to diagnose. Coming down from there, we have one of our 3D printing mounts. I showed you a second ago one of the standoff posts. Well, this is one of the places you can add 3D custom printed items if you're interested. 24-pin ATX connector, the new USB 3.1 10 gigabit per second super speed front panel port, still fairly rare, but nice to have if you want 10 gigabit per second support in the front of your case. Another chassis fan header, 8 serial ATA ports right here for 8 drives, SSDs, hard drives, etc. Down here, we have some special cables for custom water cooling, water in, water out, water flow connectors. Most people aren't going to use this, but if you're planning on doing a custom open loop cooler, this is going to be something that you'll be interested in. Just behind it is another one of the 3D mounts for 3D printing options. Coming down to the bottom in the corner here, this is where your front panel connectors, hard drive activity light, LED light, power switch, etc. are going to connect to. Next to that, we have a speaker connector, a 4-pin speaker. Now, many people don't use these anymore, but if you want to, you can certainly connect a speaker cable to it. Directly beneath it, we have one of the two RGB headers. Are we going for a Christmas tree on your desktop? This is one of the two RGB headers. The other one is actually over here. I didn't mention it before. It's directly beneath the CPU connectors. So if you want to run RGB lights on the top end of your case and then also on the bottom end, there are RGB connectors on both ends of the board. And then we have yet another fan header, but this one is also labeled water pump. Do you have multiple water pumps? Are you doing an open loop custom water cooling system? You've got another high amperage connector down here. Next to that, we have a standard USB 3.05 gigabit per second port for either back or front panel connectors. And then we have a special ROG extension key. Now, both of these combined work for customized expansions, front panel connectors, ports, etc., specific to the Republic of Gamers line. An example of what you would use that for is the overclocking panel 2, which is something that fits into one of the front drive bays and lets you do some customized work. Most people aren't going to use it, but if you want to, there you go. Next to that, we have our TPM port. This is our trusted platform module. Not something that most people are going to use, but it's there if you need it. Finally, we have a switch that almost none of you are going to use, LN2 slow mode. This motherboard actually recognizes if you are using liquid nitrogen to cool your CPU. No, you probably aren't. This is for world records and other specialist things. I did say at the beginning that this is an extreme overclocker's motherboard. If your goal is to get absolute maximum overclock and you are going for maximum speed no matter what, here you go. You've got a motherboard with a liquid nitrogen switch on it. Next to that, we have a safe boot mode and a retry button along with a start button. If you don't have your front panel connectors set up, you can start the system by using that button, and you can also boot into a safe mode using these switches. These are separate from the clear CMOS switches you have on the back. This board is absolutely designed for maximum overclocking. It is not inexpensive at $250, but if you want the best, here you go. Next to the start button down here, we have yet another chassis fan header. And then finally, we have the front panel audio connectors. This is for your microphone and headphone jack in the front. Coming around the back, we have our Supreme FX audio. Now, in reality, this is a Realtek ALC 1220 audio chip with a few modifications by ASUS, which they call Supreme FX. In fairness, what you have is specialized traces on the board that are designed to isolate the noise. It is a premium installation of it, and you have one of the best signal-to-noise ratios of any integrated audio on the market. If you're a live streamer, if you're a gamer, if you want the best possible sound using the onboard audio, and you stream on Twitch and you take that very seriously, or you're a professional gamer, this is the audio for you. Coming up the center of the board, we have 3 X16 PCI Express slots. However, really the two you need to focus on are these 2 gray ones right here. This board will handle any 2 graphics cards in SLI from NVIDIA or from AMD in Crosshair, and it will split these 2 slots, 8 lanes for the top card and 8 lanes for the bottom, or provide all 16 lanes on the top for a graphics card. They're nicely split to allow some room in between the cards for some cooling. We also have 3 1X PCI Express slots in case you need to add an expansion card. And then there's one more 8X PCI Express slot down here at the bottom. Physically it's a 16, but electrically it's only half. It's an 8X slot in terms of the pin count. Coming up from there, we have yet another fan header right here in the middle of the board. One other thing I want to mention next to these graphics card slots here is our M.2 slot here for our solid state drive. This is where I'm going to be, when I put this into a computer, this is where we're going to be installing our NVMe PCI Express solid state drive, 32 gigabits per second, 4X PCI Express 3.0, as opposed to the 6 gigabits per second from the serial ATA ports in the back. Much faster. Now back up here next to this chassis fan header, there actually is another RGB strip here, but it's in use. That's what provides the RGB control for the lighting that is up here, because this Crosshair logo up here actually lights up. Turning the board on its edge reveals the huge number of expansion options we have on the I/O panel. We have 8 USB 3.0 ports. We have 4 USB 2.0 ports. We have 2 USB 3.1, a Type A and a Type C port. We have our Gigabit Ethernet networking port. We have our Supreme FX Realtek ALC 1220, 7.1 channel HD audio with gold-plated jacks and optical out. And then finally, something very useful to overclockers is we have our BIOS flashback button and we have our clear CMOS button. If you can't boot because you've got configuration settings in the BIOS that will not allow the system to boot, this will let you reset those settings so you don't have to open up the case and jump jumpers or remove the battery. Very nice setup back here. And then finally, that leads me to the last point, the CPU socket itself. Now you can't see it because I've got the plastic clips in place, but I will remove those when I install the board. This is the only X370 board currently available on the market in March of 2017 when I'm filming this that provides holes for both AM3 and AM4. Do you have a nice high-end cooler that is designed for AM3, the predecessor to the Ryzen setup? Not to worry, unscrew these 4 screws and take these off and the holes will line up for an AM3 as well as an AM4 cooler. As far as I can tell, No other motherboard does that currently on the market. Now, there may be one that comes in the future, but for the moment, this is it. And there you have the unboxing of the ASUS Republic of Gamers Crosshair 6 Hero motherboard. $250, high-end enthusiast overclocking motherboard. Like this video if you like it, share it with your friends if you loved it. Remember to subscribe to my channel with the big huge red button directly below this video. Questions and comments in the comment section, and as always, check out my video description. Linked down in the video description will be everything you've seen in this video. This motherboard, the RAM, the CPUs, all to Amazon and Newegg. And then finally, the link to my build video where I actually show you the installation of this in a computer will be down there as well. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video.